All right. Let's see if we believe. Okay, I think I've got audio. We've got video. Hey, folks. Uh, Election day in the United States. I have hope. But we got to get serious about the code that we run individually and collectively. There's real threats in the world, and one solution to them is, the stupid old centralized strongman tested over the millennia. But it's not the only one, and I don't think it's the best one as far as creativity and justice. And I want today, or the rest of the week, or the next 90 days to be taking steps on the road back. And the road back, and then the road forward. Anyway, okay, 5 minutes. I don't know, I was just testing for some reason. Audio monitor is screwing up. Sure, what I did wrong there. Okay, may have got it back. Well, we'll just hope for the best here, as always. Thanks for coming, folks. Hey folks, welcome to the last T2sday update of 2024, where we're exploring a new computer architecture that's indefinitely scalable, and in the most recent period we're building a simulation of a simulated robot, a little car, and a simulated brain using this crazy new architecture. Let's start. We got a ton of stuff. Let's start with checking in with our robot friend BV. Seneca came into the lab soon after BV had dropped onto the grid. I want you. We'll check you out from all sides. No, actually, I think I'd rather go for this. Oh, yes. You are out of here, buddy. Hey, BV, called Seneca. We need to talk. With you in a minute, yelled BV. Just let me run off these last yellow balls here. Well, that's what I need to talk to you about, said Seneca. Wait till I'm done, said BV. Seneca sighed and sat down. It was going to be a long wait. So that's BV. Did you see BV left a couple of yellow balls up in the upper left corner there? It seems like that's the most common thing, but it's hard to know. I mean, that was almost 2 weeks of runtime on the MFMS simulator. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit. The goals for this time: BV localizes itself. BV figures out where it is on the grid. Failed at that. Anybody who'd actually tried this stuff in robotics and so forth could have told me, from the start that it's not as easy as I imagined it would be, but of course I have to learn it myself. Onward talk delivered. Success, bigger fun is big. This was a weird month, and I want to talk about several things, so let's go. All right, I'm grouping it in community development and BV's Project 2025. Community. Lou Wilson, Toad Pond, and I wrote a paper over the last year or so. This was when we were having a Zoom call, between 7 hours of time zones or something like that. And a couple of weeks ago, Lou gave the talk in Pasadena that goes with the paper. This is a still from the talk showing us, it's getting pretty recursive here, but that's kind of Lou's thing, or one of Lou's things. So that was great, and I think this the video of the talk will be up soon, or it is already up, I'm not sure. YouTube commenter changes the world. So, who's been a long-time supporter. I'd love some longer videos where you discuss ideas forming in your head, rambling discussion and all that. Do you feel rushed when you film these? Well, yes. On the one hand, it's about the YouTube wisdom that you're supposed to keep it short, and the smarter wisdom where people say, no, you should take as much time as you have content. If the content is short, because videos do, then they should be short. But I want to trying to keep it reasonably short, and I took 15 minutes to make it be a constraint for myself to try to prioritize what I want to mention, what I want to talk about, and so forth. Nonetheless, because of this, maybe in part, I just started the camera one night when I was debugging stuff and talked for 25 minutes or something like that, and then put it up. So it's there, and so here it is, dendritic tree demo in MFMS, the simulator of the indefinitely scalable hardware, over on the T2 demos channel, not the T2 tile project here. And people can see what they like. This was extremely buggy stuff. I've got an improved version. I'm going to try to do a demo in 15 minutes. We'll see if that's going to happen. Yes, I love to see how the sausage is made. Well, that's what it was like. Zedling 67 showed up as well, and I just want to say again, thank you. Getting some kind of feedback, any kind of feedback, especially things like I would like, questions, or wouldn't it be good if, or could I have, just to help me know that anybody is out there and gets whatever they get. And thank you. All right, and then this thing happens. So October 8th, I get up, I toddle over to the computer, and I look at my email, New York Times interview request, Nobel Prize. And obviously that had to be a scam, but no, it wasn't. Jeffrey Hinton, who co-won the Nobel Prize in Physics for 2024, was my dissertation advisor when I was in graduate school. And so the Times had already written up an article on him, so I didn't actually end up talking to the reporter or anything. But still, just the fact that it was legit was like, whoa. And does feel, great. And, so Jeffrey Hinton, as I said, my advisor, did a piece of work called the Boltzmann machine, which is what the Nobel Prize in Physics was citing him for. And in the citation, they linked to the paper about the Boltzmann machine. And here it is, there's right there. I didn't have any of the big physics ideas. I just did the implementation and the data gathering, and I wrote a bunch of the paper. But the ideas were mostly Jeff's and Terry's. But it was a little cool, and a bunch of people were checking in from Pittsburgh back in grad school days, and it was nice to hear from them and so forth. So that happened. Okay, development. In any given month, talking about prioritizing stuff, there's all kinds of little bits of stuff, little fiddly stuff that doesn't feel like research to me, so I generally don't mention it. But it actually is important as far as making progress, and you got to work on the underlying stuff. You got to work on the infrastructure as well as working on the bleeding edge. So this month in October, I finally got this whole workstation converted from Ubuntu 20.04 to Ubuntu 24.04, and it was scary, and I, still have a few little problems, but, Ubuntu 24.04, unlike 20.04, it just immediately offered me, there's a firmware update for your BIOS. Would you like to install it? And I just said, clicky, okay. And the horrible thing, if you've been around for a while, hearing the fans go like a jet taking off, it's fixed. The fans still come on, but they're a lot quieter and so forth. As an example. Double the space in the same place. The diamond replicator. It was a diamond because the distance measure in the movable feast machine is Manhattan blocks. So if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, but if you start making turns 1, 2, 3, 4, you don't go as far. So that's how you end up with the diamond. But if you're going to put bits inside to make coordinates, so you could say go to 2 minus 3 or whatever it is, for a local coordinate system like BV's brain is using, it would be nice if you could fill that all out. So I actually took the time to rewrite this stuff to rewrite all the code. So instead of being diamonds, it actually makes rectangles, which is twice as much space in the same number of bits. So we've got that. And then finally, we've got dendritic trees. And I'm going to spend the rest of the time, which is not very much, talking about that a little bit. So, in BV's brain, I use these crossbar switches. Here's a picture of one along one row. There's the input sensors along on the other one. There's motor outputs and signals move down and across, and that's good for dense connections. But if you want to connect between crossbar switches, I made these axons, these point-to-point things that just carry individual signals along. Then there was a problem with that. So we had here, this is actually BV's brain relatively currently. So we've got a crossbar, another crossbar, another crossbar, a little teeny crossbar down here that are connected together by these axons. And these two motor sensors right there is BV's left and right motors that drive them from the back. And there's a bunch of things that want to talk to that in different circumstances, like to spin it around when it's orienting or to, turn toward red or whatever it is. And I've got more stuff that wants to talk to the motors, but they're getting crowded. So I re-implemented everything to change the axons from being point-to-point stuff into being tree structures. And I'm going to try to show a little demo. So this is just a debug stuff. This is like what I was showing in the T2 demos thing. So let me just start this up. So there is the flood going out, and it found where it was trying to get to from a sensor to a motor. But I can make more, and now another flood goes out, and it connects to the existing one. If I put one up here, maybe it'll actually make a new connection straight to the motor, because it's, there's nothing blocking it. Let's see what happens there. And I really like when you see the yeah. Oh, no. Okay. You could have done it a straight shot, but instead it connected here, which connected here, which connected here. So the current stuff does not try to figure out the shortest path, including the length of the existing axons, which, maybe it should, but that's a little bit hard to do. But nonetheless, it basically works, and that makes me happy, especially given if you go over and take a look at what was happening on the T2 demos video, it wasn't working. So in particular, these things should start hooking up pretty soon. Yeah, and then it's kind of like a condensation process. But now the key part, the growing is one thing, but if we damage the tree after it's been growing, let's do a small one here. Suppose we get rid of this guy here. So number one, it dies back correctly, and then they regrow. So it may end up going to a different place, going by a different route, which is all fine. And again, that didn't really work either. So in fact, BV's brain is now using these dendritic trees, and it will often hook up via an existing axon when it's trying to get to the BV's motors. Progress. Whoops. That was painful. All right. This is the last to update. We're going to take November off to work on writing, and then December to try to work on something to show us in January. It's getting hard to do this development, so I'm going to put that aside and say I don't want to give up on BV yet. I still want to get some kind of world model where there's a representation inside BV's head that corresponds somehow to a representation out in the world. It may not be as sophisticated as localizing, but we'll see. And keep going step by step. So that's it. The goal is for January 7th, number one, have a world model for BV, have the Next Living Computation Foundation book over the hump, maybe not really done yet, and to welcome President Harris, who should be getting inaugurated, hopefully, the day before. So that is it. I tried putting the title card at the end here. Let's see, I can never do this right. Okay, there it is. That's me. So we'll see. Anyway, thanks so much for stopping by. Hope to see you next time. See you next time. And did I stay in 15 minutes? Did I stay? I might have stayed in 15 minutes. Uh, um, all right, so that's it. Let's see if we had some folks. Oh, hey! Yeah, all right. We've got Schlabbermav, hi. And Mr. Spiral Ganglion himself. All right. And Kian's Adsona. Have I seen you before, Kian's Adsona? I'm not sure. The speed at which the simulation running is slightly fast well, it depends. So the simulation that we just saw, the actual demo running on the MFMS simulator, which we can go look at it again. Here it is. We might as well just keep playing with it, right? Now, why don't we just kill some more stuff and watch things regrow? Suppose we kill like this thing. Oh, that's gonna kill everybody. I really need to make the motor, the destination. I really need to make that be a different color so we can tell which it's going for. But yeah, so these are simulated tiles here. The gray boxes represent individual tiles, and they are actually being simulated by separate threads in the simulator, and they're doing inter-thread locking and stuff like that, trying to be as qualitatively, structurally similar to the real tiles. But yeah, they're running at 4 gigahertz and it's got whatever it is, 8 processors, 16 threads, whatever, and the actual tiles are significantly slower. But like I said, I mean the BB's long run that took 2 weeks, even on this strikingly fast simulator. So none of this is fast, and that was a commitment I made at the very beginning. The idea of all of this research is, if we're going to build a new architecture, we should figure out what we want first and then figure out how to speed it up. And so that's what I've been doing all along. So the Ulam language, the MFM tiles, all of that stuff, none of that stuff was designed for speed. It was designed for flexibility and to be within my zone of approximately might be able to succeed at it. And to say now, which I've been thinking about this, that especially because the run times get so long and the compile times get very long, and it slows down the research. It's hard to stay on task when you have to wait 2.5 minutes to do a build, and you have to wait 2.5 hours to get to the frontier where you're trying to see some complex behavior that has to grow from a single atom seed every time you start it up. And there's various ways to try to address that, checkpoints and all that kind of thing, and I use them sometimes, but it's difficult in a non-deterministic universe. The checkpoint will not be an exact duplicate. If you rerun from a checkpoint after you've gotten a little ways away, it'll be doing different things and so on. So it's all a challenge, and I was thinking about, do we want to start thinking about a T3 tile where we'd say, the basics, the MFM basics, the event window, the bit size, lots of stuff. I feel pretty okay about, and enough so that if we could have one that would do the same kind of semantics approximately, but do it significantly faster, that would increase the headroom. That would increase the new designs that we'd be able to explore. And I don't know if I have the strength. It's because it's a big do-over, and so we'll see. So the bottom line is, this looks pretty fast, but in part that's because, the grid is almost empty. We just have, a little few things here. And I mean, we can, well, this will still be reasonably fast, but, okay. We could get the airbrush and, just blow some more in here. Now, there is still some remaining bugs when different sensors are too close to each other. And so these blinking pinks over here are things that are trying to start a flood to go out and find the place to hook up, and they can't find it. So why don't we use the airbrush to thin this out a little bit. Yeah. All right. That seems a little bit more. Maybe not. Whoops. All right. So yeah. So at this size, it's fast enough that I will choose to use the simulator if I possibly can to do as much development as I can, but that's largely because the compilation time, I don't cross compile when I'm compiling a new physics to ship out to the matrix, which I was just doing the last 3 or 4 days, trying to get this version of the physics so that we get BV running on the matrix again, BV's brain running on the matrix again. Compiling everything on the keymaster on this tile takes hours to compile the physics. So you have to commit to it, and it's swapping its brains out using a micro SD card that I set up a swap file on and stuff. It's a horror show. Anyway, still looking to see how Ulam could be used to incorporate actual OOP concepts, given that's how Alan Kay envisioned it. Alan Kay and I have had a little bit of friction. Oops, I see. Well, but maybe that's okay. Well, why don't we stop this? Why don't we stop? There we go. And then we go here. Oh, that's weird. It's the old recurso. Maybe not do that. The OOP concepts are, a lot of them are absolutely great. They're absolutely right. But a lot of the object-oriented programming development is really welded to deterministic execution, to CPU and RAM, to pointers, and so on. And so I feel like by buying into spatial layout, that, tiny amount of memory, each atom is 96 bits long, all the same size, only 71 of those bits are user programmable, that to deal with that is to invent a whole new notion of what object-oriented means. You can't just say, malloc a chunk of memory and call that an object. An object is a composite thing, which, it is in traditional CPU and RAM OOP as well, but we kind of ignore it. So, all right, yeah. I got you. I got you, spiral ganglion. It took me a while, but now I see little pictures in social media and stuff like that, and I go, oh, these all connect up. I figured it out. Keons, exactly, Doc. Thank you for acknowledging. Oh, well, acknowledging the need to speed things up. Like I said, I consider CPU and RAM to be the most unbelievable example of premature optimization we could ever imagine. And the world that we're living in particular, the fallibility of the world we're living in, the fragility of computing systems, and the complete inability to make them secure is the heritage of the premature optimization of CPU and RAM, and like that. And so that's why I say, let's figure out, by having the hardware designers, the computer engineers separate from the computer scientists, there's the different communities, different stuff. Then when new instruction set architectures get built, they get built mostly by computer engineers. And it's not just the instruction set architecture, it's the entire architecture of the machine. And, for me, the classic example of that is companies that try to do parallel chips, and there's been zillions of them, parallel green arrays, all the way back to transputers. There's been many, Intel, Knight's Corner, and so forth. And I look at those, and I mean, like I looked at Grayskull recently, and I may still try Grayskull, because one possibility for next year is to have a track, maybe not the only track, of trying to take some FPGAs, some parallel chips, whatever, and just do some experiments for a few months each or something like that, trying to see how much of a movable feast machine like event architecture could we set up on these things. And number one, see how fast we can get it to burn. Right now we're running at like 1 to 10 milliair, 1 to 10 thousandths of an average of one event per site per second, indefinitely scalable across whatever we're doing. And, when I started this, I had the fantasy that it shouldn't be very hard to hit one air, an average of one event per site per second, no matter how many sites that you had. And each of these tiles has, several hundred sites on them, so something like that. And the fact is we're in the realm of milliairs, so an AER, the average event rate, is kind of like amps. It's pretty big. Milliamps is enough to do a lot of signaling. So maybe we could reach, 100 milliair or something like that. I'm not even going to pretend. I do not think it will be me who achieves one air. I sincerely hope somebody does. I sincerely believe it's possible. It's just going to take more people getting number one, the idea of indefinite scalability, which rules out almost all boatloads of architectural cheats that computer engineering has used since von Neumann and before, to speed things up and to make things more affordable and more flexible and more powerful. All of that stuff all has to be reevaluated and significantly re-architected in order to preserve indefinite scalability. So we need people that get indefinite scalability in their bones enough to do that work, and yet combined with hardware skills that I really don't have. And so, how are we going to get to that? I don't know. Again, I'm just trying to do what I can do, given, indefinite scalability is sort of a, tomorrow, always a day away kind of thing. That depending on how strict you take, I have a concept in my mind, I haven't written it up everywhere, called the indefinite scalability audit, where you look at a computer architecture and you say, okay, if I was going to imagine making a tile of those things, if I was going to imagine putting a bunch of them next to each other and having them talk to each other and so on and so forth, how fast could they go if they only had local connectivity? And what could they do and what could they not do, and what would their properties be, and so on? And the instinct is to say, okay, well, we put 16 tiles together in a 4x4 group, say, and now we build a frame around them, and we have a combined power supply. And now we take those meta tiles and we combine them together into a 16 group of 16 of them, and we make a giant rack framework, and so on and so forth. But every time we do that, every time we come up with more architectural structure to do the next step of scaling, then the indefinite part of the scaling goes away. Because now you have to say, okay, now we're talking about an entire rack of 16 by 16 by 16, or whatever it is, mini tiles, and we're going to tile that by as many times as we can, and so forth. Because that's the way that you avoid getting cheats like RAM, like saying, oh, no one will need more than 640K of RAM. That's the classic example of a non-indefinitely scalable architectural decision that comes back and bites everybody. I mean, it comes back and bites us terribly. T3 tile to bring things into a new development stage. Yeah, it's not about the lockdown supply issues so much as it's about the brain power, and I'm going to need help. I'm going to need help from people who actually do work. This is a challenge for me. I've met lots of people over the years who are really excited about it, and they love to talk to me about it, and talk and talk and talk. But I've never been able to stimulate them into actually, doing work on the project. Well, I mean, that's not completely true, but hardware people. I have not been able to get any hardware people, either for love or money, like that. I mean, if I had enough money, obviously, I could go to, whatever it is, and rent hardware people. And I daydream about that sort of thing from time to time, hit the lottery and then start a real project and pay salaries and fire people and all that kind of thing, which, I really don't want to do. That doesn't strike me as fun. And at the end of it, I have to balance trying to make as much progress in demonstration, as much progress in design space, springing the bear traps of indefinite scalability, saying, oh yeah, we're absolutely going to think we should cache that value and use it over and over again, but that's the wrong instinct. We should recompute things whenever we possibly can instead of storing them in internal state. We should let the world be its own best representation wherever we possibly can. That saves our internal state, which is extremely precious, number one, and number two, it means it can't become invalid at the expense of course, recomputing the value every time we need it, or every time whatever granularity we're doing execution threads at. So, all right. After the U.S. election, so I say Godspeed to the advent of the T3 tile. Well, we don't want to bid fond farewell quite yet, because there's no boat and there's no motor and there's no captain and so forth. But I'm still thinking about it. And again, exactly what the shape of Project BV's Project 2025 is going to be remains to be seen. We'll see. Samter, hi. Things might. Okay, now this is how rumors start. Mostly as I've been thinking about T3, it's not a tile. It's a big FPGA. Get one of those ridiculous $7,000 FPGAs. That has a bunch of serious ARM cores and then just oceans of gates around it. Or get these things like Grayskull, these new custom chips. Oh, and I didn't finish that story. The problem with Grayskull and Knight's Corner and almost all of them, which in my mind comes from the computer engineering mindset, is they never have enough RAM per processor, like that. I mean, Knight's Corner had something like 1K. Of words, maybe something like that. Don't hold me to the exact numbers. So Grayskull has it's not even exactly clear. But the idea of Grayskull, even though the one chip is 96 processors that are MIMD, they're independent processors that can be doing different things at the time, which means in the general case, you need 96 instruction streams to feed them. Nonetheless, the chip uses combined bulk RAM. Where all of the, as far as I can figure, I mean, I looked at the architecture fairly closely, not really. I mean, I could have installed the simulator and gotten much more deeply into it, but again, it's, how to spend the hours. Uh, um, so, the parallel chips that people have developed never have enough local RAM, because what I need is the ability to take not just the code necessary to do one element, but the code necessary to do the entire physics, all of the code for all of the elements in the physics, and put that onto every processor. So if we're talking, a megabyte of instruction RAM, or flash would be obviously better as far as instruction space goes, per processor, then I get excited. But all of these things, they say, wow, we're so incredible. We have 32 KB of RAM per processor, like that. And it's like, what am I supposed to do with that? But I understand that if you think about laying it out on silicon, you're going to have a processor, and then you're going to have this significant ocean of, lake, pond of RAM associated with each one, so that they can pull completely independent instruction streams and not block on each other. That's all I want. Plus a fast fabric to allow me to peek into the neighbor's RAM and vice versa. So, I think they will get there. And I think, maybe if I could do something with Grayskull or FPGAs or whatever it is, maybe I have enough concentration left in me. I mean, at least it would be climbing a new mountain. So, I get to go back to the bottom and get all the easy stuff and go, ooh, this is fun. I'm learning before, sooner or later, but inevitably I get to the hard stuff like is happening with the T2s now. So, thanks so much for the question. Yikes. We are over the half hour mark. So unless there's more thoughts. So, okay. So I don't think I think I've discussed everything here. Well, again, thank you folks, for showing up live. I know it's ridiculous. It's a huge ask. But it makes it really special to me because I don't feel comfortable, unless I'm talking to somebody, just holding forth. I mean, even here, it would be better if it was more zoomy, sort of thing like that. But that's an even bigger imposition on y'all, like that. So thanks. This part right here is just for the live stream people who are here right now. Thank you so much for coming on down, and I will see you in Samter, like that. Oy, well, I love your stuff too, Ivan. And I can't still want to see the lines and the ink and the stuff, and oh, hey, David. Hi. Well, I mean, we had a couple of public meetings on, I don't know if it was Zoom, because that was quite a while ago, pre-pandemic. Does that something actually exist back then? Was it possible? And we'll see. Maybe we'll try to come up with a new public meeting theme. Well, for example, if to have a public meeting with the goal of brainstorming T3 ideas. How could it be done? How could people bring their special knowledge or their special ideas or whatever it is, and just start knocking that around with the goal of, number one, getting new ideas, and number two, getting people to meet each other. And who knows? One of the reasons I enjoy working with Lou so much is because, to me, as a ancient boomer, Lou is so good at community, and I am really not very good at it. I'm old school, but that's not completely correct. Well, actually, the whole mansplaining kind of thing. I've done that a lot over the course of my life, and I've been trying hard to say spirit first. That the most important thing is to be in good spirits. And that doesn't mean everything is fine. It doesn't mean you're faking it. But it means that's the most important thing. And so when you're not in good spirits because you're cranky or you're hangry, or, speaking for myself, whatever it happens to be, that should actually be the only topic of conversation is, why are people cranky, or what actually is the problem? And can we get back to some kind of consensus so that both sides are feeling good-spirited and accept that the other side is good-spirited, so that you can exchange code productively, so that you can get back to speaking like developers about the code base that you're working on, rather than acting like partisans and fighting for A versus B, whatever it happens to be, like that. So I try to learn from Lou, but he obviously lives at a much higher time rate than I do. They obviously live at a much higher time rate than I do, given the amount of social networking, plus hacking, plus video making, plus, strudling and so forth. Yes. I really enjoyed watching BV's Long Run when I put it together overnight last night. I had been gathering that stuff for, like I said, a couple of weeks, but I hadn't cut it all together and sped it up so that you could see the dynamics at different time scales. And it really, I think Valentino Breitenberg was really right, that you can see a lot of the essence, the fundamentals of emotions and drives and so forth in these unbelievably simple coupled systems. The amount of yellow goes to right wheel, amount of left yellow goes to right wheel, and so on and so forth. Samter, make a compilation of all the BV segments. I am determined, but this is another thing that is not so much fun to do. I'm hugely behind on computing up podcasts. We have a couple more podcast episodes already in the can that have been in the can for months, and I just haven't been able to get myself to do it because I'm such a jerk, and I want to do fun things. I don't want to crank out the work. But one of the things that I'm feeling currently guilty about is exactly there should be a YouTube playlist called BV's Playlist, that has just the individual BVs just in order, so that one can watch the whole BV evolution without all of my excess blathering and having to hunt and peck for them. Anyway, okay, so, well, but you never know. BV Supercut is a low priority. It's not necessarily a low priority, it's just not fun. There's other things that feel more fun to do, and I just go to them. More interested in seeing what would happen if I change the mechanism in BV's brain to do something else, whatever it happens to be. Anyway, okay, now it's quarter of, so see what you made me do? Doc loves the zoomies. Now, is Doc me, or is Doc you, or is Doc your cat? What are we talking about? constant hand raising and mics turned off. The Zoom call happens. I'll bet you, whatever, a bottle of something that, if we have a Zoom, well, I don't know. We'll be lucky to have, 10 people, and I think we could probably use gentleman's rules or, good-spirited participants' rules. If people start going too nuts, well, then the rules of good-spiritedness says, well, then we have to stop talking about anything else and start talking about when people are going too nuts, until we all get back on the same page, and then we can continue. All right, I am going to stop. And again, folks, thanks so much for joining me today here in November 5th, 2024, and we shall see what the world looks like, 24 hours from now or something like that. Hope for the best, step by step. I feel a little bit optimistic. Okay, all right. Doc loves the Zoomies. Okay, that's me. Yeah, well, I mean, it's just fun watching these things. Oh, someone's making hearts. Thank you, folks. All right. We will talk again. And that's it. Okay. The sun will rise, and we will keep computing until it doesn't. But we won't be here to see it. Yeah. Well, I'm. You're not going to get me started. You're not going to get me. There's a whole nother story that was going on in the last month. There's a whole bunch of people, including some big scientific heavyweights, that are having this discussion thing about the meaning of life. And, and I contributed my little bit, and they were all contributing their little bits. And now there's a email conversation going on about it. And I'm feeling really good about the fundamental principle that in the end, living systems and computational systems turn out to be the same thing. I made that up, 20 years ago or more. It's been sitting on livingcomputation.com since I don't know when. Anyway, so yes, we will keep computing because we will keep living as best as we can. And when we can't, the team will carry on for us. Okay, I'm going to stop.